Hi, welcome back to another episode of Soulful Sundays with Madge. Once again, I greatly appreciate you for tuning in and watching me. And if you like what you're hearing so far, don't forget to click that like button and ring that bell. So this week, what I want to talk about is destination. You know, it really was on my mind this week because I had a moment where I had to really sit and think to myself, like, are the actions that I'm taking in my life leading me to my destination? So when I looked up the definition of destination, it stated that destination is a place to which someone or something is going or being sent. A place to which someone or something is going or being sent. And that was really something to think about for me, because it made me question if I'm living my day-to-day life according to my soul purpose, according to where I'm supposed to be in life, or am I living my life based off a destination or purpose that was placed on me as a young child, as based off what someone else seen for me, or what I viewed as someone else's life story and thought to myself that their story is supposed to be my story, that where they're going in life looks good and that's where I should be going in life. Now, I can admit that for the most part of my life, I never really gave thought to where I was going. What was my destination? What was the sole purpose placed on my life before I was even conceived? I just went through life. I went through life according to what looked good. Now, I can admit that even with going through life based off what looked good, before my life imploded, maybe about 5 years ago, completely was just dismantled. So even if I go back to that point, if I go back to 5 years ago and I think about when my life was, in my mind, dismantled, fell apart, and I just had to say, okay, Madge, you had no thoughts about what you were doing day to day. You were just basing your life off what others was doing. And I ended up in this place that I'm like, you know what? It wasn't that bad. It really wasn't bad at all. It was actually pretty good, you know? To an outsider looking in, you know, you would think like I had it all together and that life was perfect. You know, you have the marriage and the kids and the vacations, and you know, you're filled with family, you're filled with love, and you think like, okay, this is life. Now, I can admit I wasn't happy, but according to what society or what I viewed, it was best to put on the facade, put on the show, put a smile on my face, and accept that this was what I was supposed to be doing with my life, even if it did not feel right, even if it didn't feel good. And never question if this was how my life was supposed to be. Sad, but married. Sad, but money in the bank. Sad, but vacationing. But it looks good on the outside, right? So it all fell apart. It all fell apart. And I was left thinking, who am I? Where do I go from here? What is the purpose of my life? Right? Now, what I did think was, okay, so if you went through life with no thought on being intentional, right, about where you're going, what your purpose is in life, and it wasn't bad. I mean, I wasn't happy, but externally, it wasn't bad, right? I thought to myself, like, wonder what you could do with life if you were actually intentional and you actually thought about what you were doing every single day, and you place these intentions in your life on doing life differently, doing life better, and allowing for different experiences to start to show up in your life, right? So what I mean by allowing different experiences is this. Okay, so as I mentioned, my life got dismantled, right? So, you know, I was at a point where I did not know. I didn't know what I wanted out of life. I didn't know where I was going. So what I decided to do was this. I decided to do nothing at the time. But in doing nothing, what I started to do was I started to say to myself, okay, what did I do in life that was not useful? So I knew I did some good, because not being mindful, I got to a certain level in life that was pretty good, right? So there were certain things that I knew I could take from that and I could use to move forward in life. But I also had to sit and think about, what are those things that were not useful at all, that were self-sabotaging, and that contributed to certain experiences that I had in life taking a turn for, at the time, I felt the worst. But instead of looking at it as being the worst, I looked at it as being an opportunity for me to learn and improve my life, because I had no idea where I was going. But I knew that I was gonna go somewhere better than what I was feeling, right? So I started to think about all the things that were not useful, the things that were self-sabotaging, and I wanted to start figuring out why I was doing these things. So what it required me to do was, it required me to start to do life a little different, start to think about life a little different. And so what started happening was, intuitively, I might have a thought, right? A thought that I wouldn't normally have. And instead of resisting the thought to do something different, I decided to follow it, because at this point I had already made a declaration to myself that I wanted to become more aware of the things that I did that weren't useful. The things that, even if moving forward in life and figuring out where I'm supposed to be going, or what I was supposed to be getting at, what I am supposed to be getting out of life, would always, if it showed up, it would always destroy even the most beautiful experiences, right? So what I decided to do was, if I had a thought or a feeling that wasn't a normal thought or feeling that I would once have, in the beginning I didn't trust it, right? But I knew that I wanted to see where it would lead me, right? So it could be something very small, like it might have been like, why don't you go to the library today and just look for books, right? That was something that I would have normally never done. But because I had already decided, I spoke it to God, and once again I say God, but that's my belief, and you are able to replace that with the universe or whatever higher being or source of energy that you look towards. But I'd already started to speak my desires to God, to the universe, of what I wanted to feel, what I wanted out of life, and wanting to be more intentional, right? So little things will start to show up intuitively. Go to the library, go look for a book. Something that I would have normally never did. But because it was something that I would have normally never did, and it seemed like a thought that could be a useful thought, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the library, right? So what started happening was, what I didn't realize is that I was starting to create an internal environment for myself that was allowing me to grow. It was allowing me to grow into discovering a different version of myself. And in discovering a different version of myself, what I began to realize was that my thoughts were slowly starting to change. And I was starting to get to a place where I started to see images of possibilities of my life. I started to realize that I could go about life differently. I could go about life being more mindful. And the more mindful I became, and the more I started really working on myself and really focusing on my wants, which is so important. What do you want? And you know, it made me think about, at times my ex-husband, he would be like, what do you want to eat? And he'd be like, and don't start with what you don't want, right? Because, and I had never thought about it back then when he would say that, but my mind was programmed to go to the don't wants. But it's like, if you're always focusing on what you don't want, you're gonna continue to get more of don't wants. So when I started focusing on my wants, what I wanted to show up in life, what I started to notice was, so I would focus on what I want, but I'd throw it out. Like, just as quick as I would write it down or think about it or speak it, it was almost like I would let it go. I didn't hold on to it. Like, is it gonna show up today? Where is it at? You know? But I would just let it go, because I don't think that I was a believer at the time, right? I wasn't really a believer. I just knew that I wanted to do different things. So to do different things, I was willing, I was desperate. Still am. I was desperate to try anything that would make me feel good and that was different than what I was normally doing in life, that led to the demise of everything, right? And that left me feeling so sad. So what started to happen was, through my desperation of wanting to be better and wanting to do things differently, things that I would put out there was starting to show up. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh. I might be onto something. This might really be working. Like I'm doing things different. I'm feeling happier. You know, I woke up one morning and I was happy again, right? It could be a gloomy day, but on the inside, I'm radiating light. I feel good. I feel good about the day. And like I said, I was noticing like things were starting to show up, just happening. So then I'm like, okay, I'm onto something. So maybe about 8 months ago, I said to myself, you know what, Madge, this is what you're gonna do. Because what I was going into a year of huge changes. I knew, like, I had a lot, and I'm still there, right? I'm probably always gonna be there. But this is a pivotal point in my life that I'm approaching. So maybe like 8 months ago, I knew that I was leading up to some major decisions to make. And I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I tried it my way. I've tried it my way. It's created a lot of worry, a lot of fears. It created me trying to manipulate life to be how I wanted it to be. And it just wasn't healthy. It wasn't right. So I'm like, I'm done trying it my way. God, universe, higher source, I'm trying it your way. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw out everything that I want from you in the next year. I need guidance on this. I just started spelling out. This is what I need guidance on. This is what I am looking to show up in my life. But I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to have. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to go. But at the end of the day, I believe that you know what I'm supposed to do in my life. That you know where I'm supposed to go in life, that I have a sole purpose, that there's a destiny on my life. I believe that. And I believe that my destiny and your destiny is not for suffering, is not to be in hurt, not to be in pain. I believe it's supposed, and now I'm not saying that challenges won't come up along the way to strengthen you for the next experience or the next level that you're going to go to, right? We're always going to encounter a challenge, but the challenge doesn't have to be what destroys us. It could actually, you could flip it to be what was placed in your life to build you, build your character, build your strength, because you need to be prepared and ready for what's next, right? So I decided I'm going to put it all out there and I'm gonna just allow. So what started happening was things were working themselves out in my life. And then I received my purpose. Now, I'm not saying that, well, I'm gonna say a potential for my purpose. And in receiving the potential for my purpose, it was going to require me to do something like this that I would have never, 8 months to a year ago, even fathomed. Someone would have said, you are going to start a YouTube channel and you are going to be so vulnerable to people and you're going to share your journey to help others, to inspire others. I'm a shy person. I don't like to be the center of attention. I don't want to speak in front of anyone, even people I've known my whole life. But here we are. So because I said I'm going to allow, I got to have a level of trust in allowing. And when there's so many signs pointing to a direction that isn't a direction that I believe would harm me, right? That will place me in danger. But it will challenge me to rise to a level that I'm not comfortable with. But I asked. I asked for God, or you might ask for the universe to show you. And when you're asking and you're allowing, you have to become comfortable with understanding that your direction can show up in so many different ways. Ways that you yourself did not even expect for it to show up in your life. And it does. So, because I accepted, or I chose to be directed and to be guided, and I'm still choosing to be directed and guided, I'm trusting, and I am following a direction that I believe was given to me to share with you. Now, I may fail, right? I may fail. No one may ever watch this. But you know what? It's okay. Because I've decided that being guided and following my purpose and living a life of happiness and joy and fulfillment is my goal in life. And I am willing to do anything that is going to bring happiness to me and to others and everyone that I may encounter, and to be able to help build someone up that is looking for a friend, looking for guidance, looking for someone to help them along their journey. So I know I had mentioned earlier that I had an experience that made me question if I was even on the right track, right? So what happened was I had an experience that it left me feeling, let's say I just woke up in the morning and I felt really down on myself. I felt like, you know what, Madge? I felt like crap. But because I've done so much work on myself, I realized that I was not going to allow myself to beat myself up for too much longer, right? Like, you're going to give yourself probably 2 hours. I may, this is how I'm speaking to myself. I may allow myself to have maybe 3 hours to beat myself up. Then I got to forgive myself. I got to move on, because that was another day. That was in the past. And I don't want to continue to take that feeling of the past now into my present. That's going to lead into the next moment and the next moment and the next moment. Now, I'm also at a place too where I want to always find the beauty in everything. That's my thing. I'm like, what's the good? Find the good. Find the good, because there's always something good in everything. So as I was tearing myself down and giving myself a time limit on how long I was going to tear myself down, I says, okay, Madge, what can you gain from this experience? Because you already messed up yesterday, right? You messed up. You realized that what happened the other night was an experience that did not make you feel good about yourself. So what can you learn? So I thought to myself, now also you're going to get to a place in your journey where you actually are going to start asking yourself questions that you would have normally never asked yourself. You're going to dig, right? So I'm like, what can you learn from this, Madge? And I said to myself, well, it took you less than 24 hours to realize that that experience, that in the past, you probably would have woke up the next morning and thought nothing of it. You would have said, That was a great time, you know? What I didn't do anything wrong, you know, this is normal behavior. But because I've already started doing a lot of work on myself to say, I want to be a certain type of woman, I want to be a certain type of person, that it requires me to do things a little bit differently. So what I learned was that person the other night was the certain type of person I don't want to be. And that person is not going to help me get to the next level, to help me to be the best version of myself. If anything, that person is going to destroy everything that I am working so hard to change in my life and to become this certain type of person, right? So I said to myself, I says, wow, Madge, I mean, this is great. It took you less than 24 hours to realize that that is not going to lead you to where you're going. That is not going to help you to continue on this journey, continue on this path of being who you were destined to be. That's going to lead you back down that road of you trying to create your own way. And you see what happens when you try to create your own way. It can lead to unhappiness. It can lead to self-destructive behaviors, right? So I'm like, well, I wonder if someone really never gave thought to what their sole purpose in life, what the destiny of their life is supposed to be, right? Or given much thought to, am I exhibiting behaviors daily that are contributing to how I feel or contributing to me not being happy, right? So I'm like, it took me less than 24 hours. But what if I wasn't thinking about any of this, right? And I could spend days, weeks, months, years spinning. Like the saying says, if you don't know where you're going, you can end up anywhere, right? So you could be anywhere, still breathing, still living, still working, still doing all these things, but never fully where you're supposed to be. And in that moment when I realized that it took me less than 24 hours, just like that, I was done beating myself up. I was able to forgive myself because I was so happy that I recognized that that behavior is not something that's going to help me. So I want to ask you, do you know, have you given thought? Have you asked God? Have you asked the universe, what am I supposed to be doing in my life? What is my story? What is my journey? What is my sole purpose? And are the things that I'm doing in my day-to-day life contributing to me being my best? Or are they tainting, sabotaging every good thing, every good experience that I'm supposed to have, or having and don't even realize I'm having it because I don't even have the ability to see the good that's showing up, right? So I want to say it's like, I want to look at it like, let's look at it like spices in your cabinet, right? So we're cooking a dish, right? And the dish doesn't call for every spice. The dish doesn't call. So, okay, so before I get to that, what I want to say is that if you're not there, if you're not there as far as thinking about your destiny or where you're going, but you want to start thinking about it, right? I'm going to say, don't throw out every thought. Don't start saying, okay, this is not useful, I'm going to get rid of this. This is useful, I'm going to keep this. Just start to really think about your life, where you're at, where you would like to be, and start really asking God and asking the universe, like, okay, what did you see? What was etched for my sole purpose, right? So as you're thinking about all this, I'm gonna get back to my spices in the cabinet though. But as you're thinking about this, don't throw out anything, right? And I say this because, well, there's gonna be some things that you're gonna get rid of, and we'll talk about that. But don't throw out everything at first. So we're in the kitchen, right? And we're cooking a dish. Now, when you're cooking a dish, your dish isn't gonna call for every ingredient, every spice that's in your spice cabinet. It's gonna call for some of them, right? To make this wonderful dish. So you're not gonna say, because I only need 4 spices to make this great dish, I'm gonna get rid of all my other spices. No, you're gonna shelf them and you're gonna save them, because though they may not be good for this particular dish, they could be really good for another dish, right? So that's like your thoughts. That's like useful thoughts, different things that are gonna help you go on in life. You may not need to tap into everything, or every thought may not need to get thrown out. You may need to hold on to it, because though you might not need it today, you might need it tomorrow, you might need it down the road. Now, there are certain spices, let's say there's an expiration date on it. So your thought, let's say that expiration date is your thought that is self-sabotaging. So you know that if you sprinkle some expired spices on any dish, that great, beautiful dish is tainted. It's no good, right? It's gone before you can even enjoy it. So if you know that only you know those thoughts, I knew mine, you will know yours. Only you're gonna know what things you're doing in your life that no matter what, if it shows up, it's gonna destroy everything, right? So that's the stuff that we wanna, you will know what that is. You can start clearing it out. But if you're uncertain of something, hold on to it. You know, we're all works in progress in life. We're all just trying to do our best, right? But I find that the more you start to have a relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, I say God, but the universe, or meditating, I pray and I meditate. But the more you start tapping into yourself, the better you're gonna start to feel, the more you're gonna start to learn, and the more you're gonna begin to grow. So I hope that you've gained something from this. I hope that you will start to think about what your destination is in life and where you're going, and if the things that you are doing on a daily basis are gonna get you to where you're supposed to be in life, and it's gonna continue to help you to be prosperous and joyous and happy and have beautiful life experiences. And if you're not there, start thinking about it. Start thinking about the things that you can change right now. And it could be something so small. It could be something like, I'm gonna read for 10 minutes a day. I'm gonna take 10 minutes a day and I'm just gonna write down wonderful things about myself. I'm gonna decide in the mornings, I'm gonna get up 15 minutes earlier, and I'm just gonna sit and be quiet and just listen to my thoughts. But these are all things that when you start to do it, you're gonna start to feel better. And I know it might sound so small, like, really? Yeah, but really, yes. Because you're gonna start to build. You're gonna start to strengthen in your faith, and you're gonna start to strengthen in understanding yourself a little bit more better. So, once again, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to like that video and ring that bell. And if you have any questions regarding this video or just in general, you can always email me at askmadge18@gmail.com. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out and listening to me, and I want you to have a blessed and a wonderful rest of your day and week. Bye.